I love the idea of digital minimalism. I know there's so many apps and websites to make our lives better, but to be honest with you, I don't like having a million apps and I don't want loads of websites to go onto. I like my digital world to feel clutter-free and simple, just like my real life space. Because of that, I've always loved Notion. I've done a Notion tour before and I've shown you guys how I've used it for my to-do list, my dream board, learning new skills, my fitness routine, and just about everything else under the sun. It meant that everything was in one place. I even had my web browser set so that whenever I opened up a new window or a new tab, it would open up with my Notion dashboard. I'm still completely obsessed with Notion. I don't have commitment issues when it comes to the apps and websites that I use. But as I was using Notion more and more, I did notice two drawbacks. The first is that Notion can be pretty slow, and that meant it was really annoying when I wanted to open up a new tab or a new window because I was waiting for Notion to load. It was also really annoying when all I wanted to do was add a quick to-do on my Notion page. The other thing is that with Notion, there's just so much to do and there's just so much going on. And sometimes I would go onto Notion to focus on one thing and get distracted with something else because everything was there in one place. So I've made some changes in my digital life. The first is that I've changed my Notion setup and I think I definitely prefer this one now. And the other change that I've made is now I use a different website in conjunction with Notion, and this is the website that I use whenever I open up a new tab or a new window. So I'll share that website at the end of this video, but first let me show you my Notion setup. So you can see that I still have a pretty simple setup, but I've made it even simpler where everything I want to see is visible without me having to scroll down, and I really like that about this setup. Everything that I need is right here. The way that I've tried to think about this setup is just what I use every single day and what's going to help me every single day. So that's why I have this section called Everyday, and these are the pages that I use the most often. So I have my yoga page, I have a page for books, and my meal planner. So these three pages are exactly the same as my last setup except for the yoga page. I decided to have my yoga page as more of a dashboard in itself now because I'm doing yoga teacher training, so I want to be able to use this page a lot more. So I have a knowledge section, which is basically what you saw in my last setup. So this is basically a library of all the yoga poses that I want to learn. And obviously because I'm now doing yoga teacher training, when you click on these there's a lot more to it, and it's basically what I add to whenever I'm learning about yoga poses. I then have my flow section. So I have a flow creator, which is basically where I'm hoping to be able to put together my own yoga flows. I have my video library, which again you saw last time. So this is basically a table of all of my favorite yoga flows on YouTube. And then I also have helpful links, which is links that I need for my yoga teacher training. And then I also just have a list of all of the requirements that I need in order to pass my yoga teacher training. And then I also have my yoga schedule. So if I was doing yoga teacher training in person and doing a whole day of it, this is what my day should look like. And this just helps me to schedule my day if I'm ever committing the whole day to yoga teacher training. So if we go back onto my cloud, that's my everyday links, which I go on the most. But then I also go onto my YouTube links the most. So in my last setup, I had one page that was designated for YouTube, and that was basically this planner page. So this is exactly the same. But the problem with this is that everything was in one place and it can be pretty overwhelming. So I decided to add two new pages, ideas and scripting, which are basically this same page, but it's a linked database and it's filtered for just ideas on this page and filtered for scripting on the other page. So that means that whenever I want to sit down and just think about ideas or just think about scripts, I can just go on this link, and it just means that I can have a bit of tunnel vision and focus on what I'm doing. Otherwise, if I do this from just a planner, I then get distracted. So I might think about scripting and then start worrying about editing another video because I can see it on my planner. So this just helps me to focus on one thing at a time. I've also added a channel hub page. So this page is just to help me think about what my channel is actually about, because I'm somebody who changes my mind all of the time and get very confused very easily and start thinking about making so many different types of videos. This brainstorm section is basically a bunch of other pages. So I have a request list, which is basically whenever somebody asks me to make a specific video. I have a collab section, which is basically where I'm trying to plan for videos with other people because that's not something I've done yet and I really want to do it. I have a page for inspiration, which is basically where I list out all the channels that I'm really inspired by and try to think about what I like about their channel. This page is about series ideas. So if I ever come up with series for videos, it's just planning them out. This love notes section is basically anything positive that someone has said about either me or the channel or any of my videos. And so whenever I'm having a bad day, because either I've received a really negative comment from someone, or because I think my channel's not doing well, or that it's not helping anyone, I just go into this love note section to remind myself of some of the positive things that people have said before. Then I also have this resource section, which is basically a bunch of links which will either help my videos or my channel. I have this YouTube to-do list, so these are things that I just want to do at some point or the other. I have this focus, which is basically my niche, I guess, but maybe not my niche. It's just helping me to try and figure out what my channel is about, because I'm still struggling with that. And I have this identity section, which again is trying to think about the topics that I talk about and the branding elements of my channel, I guess. And then I've also recently started to track my growth. So I actually didn't do this before, but I feel like I was getting a bit demotivated by how slow my channel was growing. And I feel like it is helping to remind me that actually this channel has grown quite a bit, and it makes me feel really grateful. So that's why I decided to put that there. So these are the main links that I use the most often. And then I have this other link for other pages. And this is basically my way of making my Notion setup as neat as possible. It's kind of like that messy cupboard that you have in the house where you chuck everything into it. In this section, I've basically thrown all of the other pages that you saw on my last setup, but these are the pages that I use less often, so I thought I'd shove them here. And then I still have this Give Everyday Purpose box, which I had in my last setup, and this is basically a list of things that I want to do every day. And because I look at my Notion setup literally every day, it is actually a really good reminder, and I do actively try to make sure I do at least a few of these things every day. Pins and needles. Oh my god, this is actually so uncomfortable. Oh, okay, I think I'm there. Below that, I have a reminders list. So I'm really careful to distinguish between to-dos and reminders. So for me, reminders aren't things that I have to do straight away. They're things that I just need to make sure I don't forget about, and they're things that I will come back to at some point. And this is something new that I've added to my Notion setup, which I didn't have in my last setup. And it's basically just a board of what I want my routine to look like. So I have made a video about my daily routine before, but essentially I want my mornings to be mostly about mindfulness. And then lunchtime, I always feel like I get really sluggish after lunch. So that's why I'm trying to make sure I now walk after lunch and then do a bit of writing after lunch. And then in the evenings, I want to make a to-do list for the next day, have dinner, and then completely switch off from tech and just focus on art and listening to music, because I think that's just such a great way to unwind. And then below that, I have my affirmations, or my goals if you want, which is exactly the same as my last setup. And again, I've kind of crossed it out so you actually can't see what my affirmations are, because I feel like they're pretty personal to me and I don't really want to share them with everyone. And below that, I have my dream board, which is just a load of images to inspire me. And now for the website that I use in conjunction with Notion. It's called Identity. At least I think it's called Identity, or is it Identity? But I feel like Identity makes more sense. But it's basically this website that was born out of the idea of decluttering the internet, which, given how endless the internet is, that's no easy feat. I mean, I know whenever I go on my web browser, I can literally go down a rabbit hole, and that's why I've never really used Google as my page for a new tab or browser. I used to use Notion, but like I said, it was just too slow to load. So now I use Identity instead. So this is Identity, and it's basically a place where you can create tiles of websites that you use, and you can organize them by categories. So I'm actually on the free version, which only lets me have 11 tiles, but to be honest, I actually don't use the internet for that much. I only tend to go on these same sites all of the time, which is why I don't feel inclined to have the paid version just yet. But even with this free version, I feel like I'm getting quite a lot out of it. The other thing that I really like about this website is that you can have notes at the side. So this is now what I use for my to-do list, and the reason that I'm using this for my to-do list is because it's so quick to use compared to Notion. I just feel like Identity is nice to look at, very simple, very effective and quick. It really does just get the job done. Identity has loads of other features which, if I'm honest, I've not really looked into, but for example, it can also fill passwords for the websites that you go on, and it has Google Calendar integration. I'm such a big fan of simplicity in the digital age, because I feel like even though the digital world does really help us to be more efficient, it's also really distracting, and I never want to use the digital world in such a way that I forget the real world. So because of that, I always look for ways to be more productive on the internet without getting distracted. Also, and kind of unfortunately, this video is not sponsored in any way by Notion or Identity. I was really hoping that Notion would watch my last video and decide to sponsor me, but it didn't happen. So if I ever have a third setup, hopefully it'll be third time lucky. Or at least a girl can dream. Let me know what you guys think of my new setup, and let me know if you've ever heard of Identity or if you've used it. Stay intentional and go create some magic.